Well, hopefully you know by now that the way we mature in our pursuit of God is by helping other people pursue God. And one of the most important things that we can do is to share the first truth of foundations is that we start our pursuit of God by trusting in Jesus. Now, I imagine that we all have people in our lives that we would love to see discover a relationship with Jesus Christ. But, often it can be difficult to know, well, how do I do that? How do I really share this basic truth about salvation with them? Sometimes we're not sure what to say, or we're just scared we're not going to be able to answer all their questions. Well, here's the good news. The reason why we created pursueGOD.org is so that you can have a resource to help you share God's truth with other people. And the first and most important truth you can share is that they need to start their pursuit of God by trusting in Jesus. So here are a few simple steps to help you do just that. Here's the first step. Identify and pray for them. You see, the first thing you need to do is just think about the people in your life who you know need the truth of Jesus. Maybe these are family or friends or coworkers, neighbors, people you hang out with, play golf with, do whatever you do with. Just think about the people in your life that you know need to hear the truth about Jesus Christ. And then as you think about someone, begin to pray for them. Pray that God would open their heart to their spiritual need and that you would have the opportunity to share God's truth with them. Step 2. Invite them to church or into a spiritual conversation. You see, you first need to kind of break the spiritual ice. Faith can be kind of a personal matter with people, and it might feel a little awkward just to bring up the topic randomly. But most people are actually more willing than you would think to discuss spiritual truth. And so to break that ice, a great thing you can do is simply to invite them to church or to a church event. Many people are happy to go to church with you because you're inviting them into a personal part of your life. But if they're not really interested in coming to church, invite them into a spiritual conversation. Ask them if there's something in their life that you could pray for them about, or maybe just share something that you've learned recently from the Bible. Simply try to engage them in a spiritual conversation and see how it goes. Step 3, offer them foundations. After you've invited them to church and maybe they've come, or maybe you've just been engaging in spiritual conversations for a while, ask about their impressions about the church service or about God. Ask if they have any questions. And then ask if you could share some foundational truth from the Bible with them. And if they're interested or open to this, we'll give them a copy of Foundations. You can either give them a written copy or you can share the link to the foundation sections of the pursueGOD.org library. Invite them to check it out ahead of time and let them know that you'll follow up with them later. If you point them to the website, make sure that you explain how the playlists work to them and also let them know that if they have any questions at all, to feel free to ask you anytime that you're there to help. Step 4. Talk through Foundations with them. After they've had some time to go through Foundations, ask if they'd have a time to sit down and talk with you about it. This can be over lunch or coffee or at the golf course, whatever works. And simply sit down and go through the simple truths of Foundations with them. Go through those first steps in pursuing God, those first main ideas that sin is our problem, that Jesus is our solution, and that faith is our response. Keep it simple. You don't have to get all complicated. You don't have to get into every random theological thing. Focus on those main truths. And you see, this is where the pursueGOD.org library can really help, because as you talk through this, they'll probably have questions, and you might not be able to answer them right off the top of your head. Well, that's okay, because there's probably a video for that. So share with them some videos that might be relevant to whatever questions they have. Those videos might be on the playlist you're looking at, or they might be in the Investigate section of pursueGOD.org. Or if they have a question and there's not a video in our library for it, follow up with the leadership of your church and ask if they could provide a resource that might be able to help. Don't feel like you have to have all the answers right off the top of your head. Don't be scared to say, I'm not sure, but I'll look into it for you. And step 5, keep praying and trust God. If the person you're sharing with expresses any interest at all, well, keep following up with them and regularly pray for them. And if they come to a place where they're ready to put their faith in Christ, you can pray with them and then keep going through the rest of the Foundation series. But even if they don't really show any interest, that's okay. Keep praying for them anyway, and maybe follow up down the road with them again sometime. And ultimately, remember to entrust the results to God. You see, it's not our job to sell people on God. We're not trying to shove truth down their throat. It's not up to us to convert them. Our job is simply to share God's truth and then let God do His work on their hearts. So if you're doing this with a group, why don't you go ahead and pause now and discuss these questions.